The Bold Ones. Burl Ives. Joseph Campanella. James Farentino. Lawyers defending justice in the nation's courtrooms. Leslie Nielsen. Harry Rhodes, public servants enforcing the laws of a challenging society. E.G. Marshall. John Saxon. David Hartman, doctors expanding the horizons of the new medicine. The Bold Ones.
I said move it. How'd you like?
Mr. Nichols? I'm Phil Douglas, district attorney here.
Well, we're the opponent. How do you do?
You being from out in Hollywood, California, I thought if I could help with precedents, procedures.
Well, I appreciate the courtesy, but I've tried cases here before. Not in Newman County, but in the state.
Simplifies things then for the both of us. Mr. Hollister killed a pretty popular young man. Here's a copy of the statement he made.
I had nothing to hide. 50 lawyers couldn't change the facts. Mike Shields tried to rape my wife, and I shot him.
Tell me, Ted, why did you leave the party at the country club that night before your wife?
Because I was tired and she wasn't.
He tore the shoulder strap. And this is the nylon I was wearing. You can see how I skinned my leg when I fell. He had me by both arms. He left bruises a mile wide. I thought I was equal to any occasion, but not this one. Nobody ever actually used physical force on me before. I guess I was still hysterical when I got home.
How well did you know Mike Shields?
I didn't even like him, if that's what you mean. We don't really mix with the local people. We come here 2 or 3 times a year. My husband has money invested here.
If you didn't like him, Mrs. Hollister, why did you dance with him?
Stop insinuating. I danced with half a dozen men.
But when you left, Mike Shields left a few seconds later, right behind you.
Whose side are you on?
Well, I read the police report, Mrs. Hollister, and so did the district attorney. He may contend that your husband was so jealous of Mike that he came home for the express purpose of getting that gun. Now, come on. Why didn't you leave the dinner dance when your husband left?
Because he was tired, and I wasn't. When I did leave, Mike Shields followed me. He had me against the side of my car, and he was tearing off my clothes before I could fight him off.
Well, the only case the state can make is that you encouraged the victim, and that your husband's act was deliberate, calculated revenge.
That is not true.
Exactly what I figured you'd plead. Temporary insanity, right?
Why not? Seems to me we ought to settle on a plea that would admit to the act of my client, but save the overburdened taxpayers the expense of a trial, which I'm bound to win.
No deal. I'm going after Hollister. That was a cold-blooded killing. I really believe that. Murder one. Death penalty if I can get it. Ralph. Walter Nichols, attorney from out in Hollywood.
Well,
Ralph Turner, Walt.
well, I'll admit I did contrive to meet you. After all, Mike Shields, the closest thing I ever had to his son.
I'm sorry. And I'm sorry we'll have to be antagonists with Mike Shields in the middle.
You needn't be. Mike was a fine boy. He wouldn't have touched that woman, Nina Hollister,
The DA tells me you put Mike through school.
till he got a football scholarship down at Keating, yes. But he would have been a pro himself if he hadn't smashed himself up on a motorcycle.
You ended your career, as I recall, as a prisoner of war.
Well, I see I run across one of my vast army of fans.
Yeah, limping down the corridors of time.
Oh, I admit I love football, but now my game is poker. Didn't I hear somewhere that poker was your game, too?
Yeah, I enjoy the kind of competition I can meet sitting down.
Mike was my liaison man with the Pentagon. They loved him. All the boys did. Everyone did. You aren't going to attack that dead boy, are you?
Well, I hope not. But I may have to.
Well, don't. That'd be losing strategy. Bad strategy, if you want to save your client's neck. By the way, do you like your poker rough?
Well, how rough?
Well, a few of the local boys, we get together at my house, table stakes and cash.
Sounds reasonable.
Well, why not join us Sunday night?
Well, I do my own research, Mr. Turner. Most any contest is won or lost in preparation, so afraid I'll have to take a rain check.
Every Sunday.
Well, thanks for the invitation and the lunch. I read again from the defendant's confession. He tried to tear her dress off. Her stockings were torn. She was bleeding. She was almost hysterical.
Objection. This is not a proper cross-examination.
The confession made to the police by Mr. Hollister was placed in evidence by the state, and I'm addressing myself to Mr. Shields' attitude toward women, a subject introduced by the state.
Objection overruled.
I read again from the defendant's confession, quote, I don't clearly recall what happened after that until I shot him. If I say to you, Mr. Turner, that I believe a man has a duty as well as a right to protect and defend the sanctity of his marriage and the person of his wife, do you agree with me?
I agree, yes.
Now, if I say to you that Mike Shields did attempt to violate the sanctity of the Hollisters' marriage, do you agree?
No.
Michael Shields was, in your opinion, incapable of the act of which Nina Hollister accused him.
Absolutely. He was shy about women. Old-fashioned shy. He put women on a pedestal.
And you knew him intimately well?
I think I've established that fact, yes.
And found him faultless?
Well, not faultless. No one's exactly faultless, but if you say blameless, yes.
The notion of harming a woman would never have occurred to him.
Never. flunk out of college? No.
But he did leave Keating College in November 6 years ago, sometime before graduation.
Well, he never took his final examinations, but that wasn't necessary. I needed him here at home, so he came here for me full time.
And you were not told that on November 24th, 6 years ago, that Mike Shields was being suspended because of a charge brought against him by a young lady, a co-ed named Elizabeth Kirsch?
Mr. Turner, please answer the question.
There was a misunderstanding. You are attacking a boy who can't be here to defend himself.
The confidential files, the records of Keating College indicate he was there to defend himself at the time. The story was suppressed, but I think you can tell us about that.
Nobody knows what happened. Nothing was ever proved. Of course, we tried to save the boy embarrassment, but this Elizabeth Kirsch was just another...
Just another aggressive woman like Nina Hollister?
Yes.
5 witnesses appeared to corroborate Elizabeth Kirsch's allegation that she was trying to avoid Mike Shields at a fraternity party.
Objection. Mike Shields is not on trial here.
Neither, if the court pleases, Nina Hollister. But we've been exploring her character for some time in detail. We are a remiss in justice if we do not explore his equally.
Objection overruled. You may proceed.
Did not Miss Kirsch contend that Mike followed her from the party and did her bodily injury while attempting a sexual assault upon her person?
So she claimed, yes.
And after reviewing the evidence and the testimony, did not the university call in Mike's aunt and uncle and you and tell you they had found him guilty?
Yes, but there was prejudice.
Did they not find him guilty, and is that not the reason he left Keating College?
Yes. But
No further questions.
Bailiff will remove the defendant. Court will recess until 10 o'clock Monday morning.
May I go to the ladies' room, please? May I have change for cigarettes, please? Thank you.
Walt. I guess we're ever going to shake hands again. Now's the time.
Well, I'm surprised, pleasantly surprised, because I know I caused you a lot of anguish.
I didn't really think that Elizabeth Kirsch smear would be brought up again. And you told me that you did all of your own research. I might have known that you'd dig it up. You can't fault a man for knowing his work well and doing it well. I just wanted to let you know that.
Thank you. And I just want you to know that I didn't enjoy it. Oh, the other day you invited me to one of your Sunday night poker parties, and well, I refused. I wondered if I could reverse that decision.
Well, if you hadn't brought that up, I would have myself.
You gonna put Hollister on a stand tomorrow?
Yes, I am.
Mel, you in for 100?
Yeah, I'm in.
Well, I'll say one thing. I wish Walt here could have known what a fine boy Mike really was.
Fine boy.
Well, I can't open.
100.
Three cards.
2.
Give me one.
2, please.
Stay
Dealer takes 3.
Check.
200.
And raise 50.
Another 50.
Raise another 100.
I'm out.
I'm gonna call you, Walt. I think you kept a kicker.
3 9s.
Uh-uh. I thought 2 pair would win it.
And the state has made no attempt to deny a man's right to protect and defend his marriage. Now, did the defendant, with premeditation and malice aforethought, go out and kill a man because of long smoldering jealousy? The state has been unable to establish that any jealousy existed. Wasn't the defendant for a little while driven out of his reason into a blinding rage by evidence he saw that the woman he loved had been assaulted and injured? It seems to me that the state has made your decision easy. They have charged the defendant with premeditated murder. Now, you can't possibly find premeditation here, and you therefore cannot find Ted Hollister guilty as charged.
Why have you been avoiding me?
Now, that question, Mrs. Hollister, would be the proverbial indication to anyone overhearing it that you have been pursuing me.
You know what I mean.
I do. But it's painfully evident that a lot of people misunderstand your words, and I think some of them your actions.
Should we hold hands and really give them something to gossip about? Actually, I do adore you for what you've done.
You think I've won the case?
I'm sure of it.
Well, whether I win or lose, I'm through with my summation this afternoon. Tomorrow, Mr. Douglas will finish his rebuttal, and the case will go to the jury. Nothing can be changed in any way by what you say to me now.
Are you serious?
Yes, indeed. You see, I chose to defend your husband with what I believe to be the truth about him. But in doing so, I humiliated and embarrassed a very nice man. If you forgive me for a personal statement, it'd be a comfort to my soul to, well, to know the truth about you.
You mean about me and Mike Shields? I've had 3 love affairs in my life. One when I was in college, one shortly before I married Ted, and one with myself. I like and respect my husband. Sometimes I love him. But we're not in love. I flirt. I flirt because my vanity needs it. I did not flirt with Mike Shields, Mr. Nichols. I didn't even like him. I'll tell you why. Because he was more vain than I am. Every word I said to you or Ted about what happened that night was true.
Thank you, Mrs. Hollister. Thank you.
Clerk will read the verdict.
We, the jury, find the defendant to the charge of murder in the first degree not guilty.
Thank you. The court wishes to thank the jury for its patience and its obedience to instruction and its prompt exercise of justice. Jury is dismissed.
Come here.
Mr. Nichols?
Yes.
Police. I'm Detective Cotton. This is Detective Archer.
I was just about to call you. Somebody's entered my room and taken some money.
Well, that's another matter. I have a warrant for your arrest.
On what charge?
Bribery, Mr. Nichols. Suborning one of the Hollister jurors.
You think the DA could be in collusion with Turner?
Only to the extent that he will thoroughly enjoy his duty.
Talk about Ralph Turner for a minute, Walt.
Well, he took me in completely, but maybe not too carefully. He knew that when I finished my cross-examination, what he was going to do. Now, from that time to the poker game on Sunday night, he had only about 48 hours to arrange it all.
To make a deal with Edith Powell and find someone to come burglarize your room, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Why would Turner do it? Just vengeance.
Just vengeance. That's been a mighty powerful motive for as many centuries as we have literature to prove it. I humiliated him in a town he almost owns. And I made a liar out of him as well.
Walt, he knew you left that poker game with a wad of money. But how could he have known you'd stash it here in your room?
If he's having me watched, he knew.
Well, why didn't you leave the money in the hotel safe?
No night clerk on duty. But it just didn't seem important to me. What's important to me now is I'm tired.
All right, just clear my mind on one point. As attorney to client, did you have any contact of any kind with Edith Powell?
No. And let me clear your mind on a more important point. I'm going to defend myself.
Walt, are you crazy? You can't...
I'm sorry, Neil, but I'm at least the second best trial lawyer I know. I'd like for you to stay around and do some legwork for me, if you will.
You're gonna need a lot more than legwork. Or hasn't it occurred to you that you're not too popular around here?
I know. This arrest isn't a new event. It's simply the second round. I won the first, now they want me for a showdown. Can you imagine how it would disappoint them if I were to send you into the arena instead of myself? No, sir. Unthinkable. Go to bed.
Where the devil do you people get the idea? Just because a janitor or a thief. I got honest people working for me. I couldn't stay in business.
Well, can't you at least tell me what crew you sent up to the Metropole Hotel last Monday night?
That's another thing. Just try and keep a lousy crew in this lousy business. You break them in, you turn around, and they're gone.
I'll tell you
3 of that crew is gone.
I'll tell you what, Mr. Swift. You give me a list of the names, and I'll pay you $5 a name.
Sit down.
You know Edith Powell's a widow, raising 2 girls on pension money and having a very rough time. A lot of money would be a big thing to her, solve a lot of problems. Oh, and I called Dorothy Daly. She's going to check out Mrs. Powell around the clock.
What's that going to gain us?
Well, who knows? I just keep wondering that if there's a connection between her and Turner. And if there is, Dorothy will dig it out.
Well, you got 6 days. I've been assured by the district attorney, no less, that this case will be put on the calendar Thursday next.
All rise.
Do you recognize this $100 bill?
Yes, I do.
Will you tell the jury why you recognize it?
Well, when Mr. Nichols won that pot, that bill was in it. We all remarked on it. Mr. Nichols said he'd keep it as his lucky piece.
Now, Mrs. Powell, we all know that the Hollister jury was sequestered, and yet you tell the court that Mr. Nichols approached you, offered you $5,000, and then found the opportunity to pay you that money for working in favor of his client?
Yes.
Your Honor, the witness is giving incriminating testimony against herself. If a deal has been made between her and the prosecutor, it should be made part of the record.
Mr. Douglas?
No deal has been made, Your Honor. The witness has been advised of her rights and insists upon testifying to the whole truth.
Objection overruled. You may proceed.
Did you realize that in even listening to his blandishments, you were violating the law?
Yes.
Why in heaven's name did you accept?
Well, I have so many responsibilities. I'm alone with 2 young daughters.
All right. Now, just tell us how and where Mr. Nichols managed to approach you with the offer he made.
It was at the bar at the Bishop's Candlestick, the restaurant where we went for our evening meal.
She's been giving a great performance. Playing it like Little Nell. If I read that jury right, they're believing it. Has Dorothy come up with anything yet?
No, if there's anything between Mrs. Powell and Turner, they're cooling it.
How are you doing with the janitors?
I'm going to see the last one on the list at 6:30 at the employment agency.
You have told the jury that I made a statement to you at that time. Would you repeat that alleged statement, please?
When you offered me the cigarette, you said so quietly, I could hardly hear you. You said, if you can use $5,000 in cash, I can use your help.
We just sat there at the bar and chatted. Doesn't it strike you strange that nobody saw us?
Oh, it's very dark in there. I didn't recognize you until I heard your voice, and I was standing right beside you.
And during these long absences, the bailiffs of the court, they didn't miss you? They didn't question you?
We never took much time to talk. Never more than a minute or 2.
If the court please, this witness is lying. And from a prison cell or
I
from
move
the
to
grave,
strike the statement,
I'll
Mr.
see
Nichols.
her convicted of
Your Honor,
conspiracy and
Mr. Nichols,
blatant
the court
perjury.
is about to hold you in contempt.
No further questions, ma'am.
No, pero entró con nosotros cuando fuimos a trabajar.
¿Qué hizo?
Pues estaba limpiando el segundo piso y luego lo vi. Después se despidió deprisa y corrió abajo de las escaleras. Estoy segura que si lo veo otra vez, lo conozco.
Bueno. A man went in with the janitor crew or followed him in, someone she didn't know. She saw him on the 2nd floor near your room. He ducked and ran down the stairs. She's sure she'd know him if she saw him again.
Este es él. Este es el hombre. Estoy segura.
Earl Gore. You know? Yeah. Housebreaker, burglar, local punk. Last report I had on him, he was up north someplace. Yeah, I'll check it.
Walt, petition the court.
Now, you know what I'd need for that, and we just don't have it. Now, you find Earl Gore if you can, and if he's the man, it's over. I've won. Meantime, I've just got to fight it through.
Well, I haven't seen the whole trial, but I have been there watching the greatest trial attorney in the world at work, and that's you. Now, you may think that's flattery, okay. But you're gonna lose, Walt. You're gonna lose the case, and you're gonna lose whatever your life has meant up to this point. You have fouled up every cross-examination. That hick, Phil Douglas, has been...
No. He's no hick.
He's a hick, and he's making you look like a dummy. You are not Walt Nichols in there because you're pleading for yourself, and you're doing a terrible job, a fumbling amateur job. Walt, you've got to withdraw from the case and let me defend you. You've got to.
I can't step down now. Mr. Douglas is going to put Ralph Turner on the stand, and I can't let anybody else cross-examine Ralph Turner.
Earl Gore. Come on, Gore, open up another cup. Gore!
Hold it! Now, Mr. Turner, we know you've recently endured the ordeal of the Hollister trial, and we're going to make this brief.
I just want a name. Who paid you to go through Walt Nichols' hotel room?
I could get 15 years.
Burglary, conspiracy, bribery, flight to avoid, 15 years. You could get 25. And you will, if you don't cooperate. Now, Gore, you testify that Ralph Turner hired you to go through Walt Nichols' hotel room. And I'll defend you for nothing.
Is it painful, Mr. Turner, for you to discuss the Hollister trial?
No, not if it's important.
I had you under cross-examination on Friday the 17th. That day was very important to you, was it not?
Yes, it was. It's important and embarrassing.
Yet on the evening of that very day, you invited me, your tormentor, so to speak, to come to your home to play poker.
Yes.
Mr. Turner, we've heard 4 witnesses describe you as an expert poker player. Why did you play such a bad game that Sunday night?
Well, Walt, I know the game well, of course, but I play poker for fellowship, for the fun of it. Why, poker can be the dullest game in the world if it's always played right.
Mr. Turner, it's been well publicized that I won nearly $5,500 in that game. Who was the big loser?
I was. But through
You've answered the question, Mr. Turner. From whom did I win this $100 bill, my so-called lucky piece?
Well, I don't know.
Are you aware that 2 of the players testified that I won it from you?
Why, if they say so, they probably did.
I put it to you, sir, that you wanted me to leave that game a $5,000 winner and with this $100 bill in my possession because you planned for motives of revenge to use that money against me later.
Objection. Improper cross-examination. The witness is being...
If the court please, I'm prepared to call Mr. Turner as a hostile witness for the defense. But it would prolong these proceedings without improving them.
Objection sustained. However, you will have the opportunity to make these points in your summation, Mr. Nichols.
Mr. Turner, you came to my hotel on the evening of the 17th to invite me to that poker game.
No, Walt. I came to tell you that I harbored no ill feelings about what had happened at the court. I had been hurt, but I came to shake your hand. Isn't that so? Isn't that what I said? And wasn't it you that brought up the poker game? I invited you to play poker the first time we met, which was before the trial. I guess if we're ever going to shake hands again, now's the time.
He's a hick and he's making you look like a dummy. You are not Walt Nichols in there because you're pleading for yourself and you're doing a fumbling amateur job.
I flirt. I flirt because my vanity needs it.
Permission to approach the bench?
Of course.
I've listed here some precedents for what I'm about to do. I'll read them in the record if you wish, sir.
I will. Note, People versus Strange, Ohio, 1959. People versus Archer, New York, 1963. All right, Mr. Nichols.
Defense calls Walter Nichols to the stand.
You swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. I present myself, duly sworn, as my only witness. State will cross-examine, if it so desires, of course. But under the precedents presented to the court, what I say now will constitute my testimony and my final argument as well. While I was preparing myself for this appearance, I did what I always do with a client. I asked myself for the truth. And I want you to know what I learned about the truth and about myself. The name of it is vanity. Recently, I had dinner with a woman who confessed her vanity to me, and I felt quite superior. But I listened with compassion. Then they arrested me, Walter Nichols, for bribing a juror. Now, I was advised not to plead this case in my own defense. But I was filled with self-righteous anger. I knew I was not guilty, and my high opinion of myself was then secure. I thought, I will tell them I'm not guilty. How could they possibly doubt me? Now, I wonder how many innocent men have tumbled into that trap. In this court, and in the press, I've been called the Hollywood attorney. I was born and raised in southern Illinois near a town not half the size of this one. I've given my career to the defense of the accused. And I've been blessed with great success. And I came to these proceedings thinking of myself in terms of the publicity that I have received, the brilliant trial attorney, the brilliant defender. Well, the charges against me is a grave one. And you heard me say in my opening argument that I would prove it untrue. Well, I say now that I have not done so. I have left you where no good attorney should ever leave a jury, with the terrible task of deciding who to believe. So I ask you now, what could I have gained by bribing Edith Powell? A reputation? No, my reputation, well, was then secure. Now, why would I risk it all at this time of life? Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I testify that I have never bribed a juror, tampered in any way with due process. Now, if there were a single blemish on my career, your able prosecutor would have discovered it and presented it here to gain his verdict. I testify to you that I did not bribe Edith Powell. But there must have been a need that prompted her to accuse me. A need so dire and so deep that I can't comprehend it. So, I ask you to find in my favor in an anguish of conscience. Because I know what such a finding must mean to her, and I will offer her my help if she desires it. I believe at this moment, as I have all my life in the American jury system, but I think I have never charged a jury with a heavier responsibility. I know that I'm innocent, but you must decide on the evidence. And I'm afraid I gave you very little help. Taken on its face, the evidence points to my guilt. I can only hope that you will look at more than surface evidence, and that looking deeper, the truth will be revealed to you. Either way, I have learned just how deeply true that old saying is. The lawyer who defends himself has a fool for client. Defense rests. I was told that Mr. Neil Darrow is here.
Yes, sir, he is. He's in there with a prisoner and Lieutenant Cotton.
I asked that I be called here if the jury comes in. Would you let me know?
Yes, sir. Sergeant Bradley. Yeah, he's here. I'll tell him.
Be seated.
Will the defendant rise and face the court? Will the jury foreman please pass the verdict to the clerk? Clerk will read the verdict.
We, the jury, find the defendant on the count of suborning a juror not guilty. On the count of bribing a juror, not guilty.
The court wishes to thank the jury for its patience and attention. Jury dismissed. Defendant is released. Court is adjourned.
Mr. Douglas, there's a man next door at the police station, and he's confessed that he's the man that Turner hired to steal the money from my room. So tomorrow won't be a complete loss. I really don't know why they found me not guilty. Turner had all the evidence.
Well, I'm sure you'll forgive me, Walt, if I suggest that it was because you aren't guilty.
All's right with the world. Is that kind of poetry real at least once in a while? You leaving tonight or in the morning?
No, I promised Gore I'd defend him if he'd confess, so I'd be here for a while.
Has anyone talked to Mrs. Powell?
Well, it figures Turner guaranteed her defense.
Mr. Turner isn't that predictable, Neil. I think I'll pay her a call right now.
You miss your plane.
Well, if she throws me out, I'll take the midnight plane. If she doesn't, we may both be here a while.